All right. So I had set myself a TBR of Stephen King books that I wanted to read this year. And this is my second one that was on the TBR of the Stephen King books I wanted to read, and that is The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. And this is one I've been meaning to read for a while. I had picked it up maybe a year or so ago, and it's one of his shorter, if not possibly his shortest book. And so I figured, yeah, this would be a good one to squeeze in there. It is about this girl named Trisha who is 9 years old, and she ends up getting lost in the woods. And not only does she end up getting lost, there seems to be something that is like hunting her, but letting her ripen to a certain point. To, I don't know if it's like desperation or fear or whatever this like weird god of the woods is looking for, but it's out there with her. And at first she denies it. Then she kind of realizes it's out there. But anyways, it all starts out one day. She's going out with her mom and her brother. Pete is her brother and Quilla is her mom, and her parents are divorced. So her mom tries to like have them do all these like fun activities and whatnot. Like, as the parent of a divorced child, this seems to be like, I don't know if the parents just trying to win affection or trying to do something or just trying to do their best. Pete, he's a teenager, and so he's like hates it. He's always arguing with his mom. He wants to go live with his dad because all his friends are where his dad lives, and he had to move in with his mom because his mom got custody. So he goes and sees his dad on the weekend, and he's pissed off about it. So they're always constantly arguing. Like, pretty much whatever they end up doing, like, Pete is arguing about it with the mother and driving her up a wall and like just giving her grief continuously. So it's going to be the same thing on this outing that they're going to do. And they're going to do like a short part of the Appalachian Trail. They go out on the trail. Trisha has a backpack. She's got water. She's got a bottle of Surge. She's got a lunch with her that has a few things. There's a sandwich, an egg. She had some other stuff in there too, some chips and whatnot. She does know a little bit about nature because this doesn't seem like it's their first time going outdoors and such. So she has a little bit of knowledge. So she's not just thrown out there like one of these kids who maybe has just sat in front of video games their whole life and just hasn't gone camping ever or gone on hikes and whatnot. So she has a little bit of knowledge which is going to come into play and help her survive, because otherwise she probably just would have died right away and there wouldn't have been much of a book. Anyways, Pete and Mom are arguing because that's just what they do. Trisha, at some point, she's like, hey, I have to use this bathroom. Ignored. She's like, hey, and she's trying like, whatever. They hit a point where the trail forks, and she goes off kind of down the other way because she's gonna go pee. She wants some privacy, and like, so she goes a little bit into the woods, and she's like, oh, she can still see the trail, so she didn't like that, and she's like, oh, well, what if someone sees her? So she goes further down into like this little like, I don't know if it was a ravine area, whatever, and does her business, and then decides instead of going and backtracking back to the trail, should be easy to just cut across and meet up with the other one, right? Just cut through the woods. People always stay on the path. Don't stray from the path. Especially if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have any kind of like compass or, you know, one of those GPS things where you can type in, please help me, send emergency help, please. Don't go off the path if you don't know where the F you are. So she's 9 though. This is taking place in 1998. She also has her little Walkman with her, which has a, I think, cassette player in it, and then also it gets radio. Obviously, she tries to get back to the other path, and she is unable to find it. At some point, she gets all turned around, and then she just makes things worse and worse. There's a point where, for some reason, she gets scared and she starts running, so that doesn't help at all. So, like, as stuff's flying by, she's not really paying attention where she is, and she gets further and further away from getting back to the path that she was on. Some of the things she knows and does right is she realizes once it's settled in that, oh, F, she's lost. You know, first she's like, oh, they'll come look for me, this, that, and the other. So she's like, they should find me soon. Hopefully they stop arguing and, you know, notice that I'm missing and this, that, and the other. And so she's like, okay, well, maybe I should start conserving my food and my water and my beverages. And so she has to do that. And she also knows a little bit about things that you can eat, like, and it's kind of like the weather is good, so the time of year she went missing wasn't so bad. She does end up like falling into water and getting wet, but the weather wasn't really bad, so, you know, that could have been an instant killer had it been like early spring or whatever. So the temperatures are warm enough for her to survive for a certain amount of time. And, you know, especially when someone goes missing out in the woods, they say after 24 hours, because the most 24 hours are the most crucial. 48, it just gets less and less chance that they're going to actually be out there alive and surviving. But She knows that she can eat checkerberries, which seem to be scattered throughout the forest. She also stumbles upon at some point in time like fiddlehead ferns, and so, she eats some of those too. And beech nuts. So she has a little bit of this knowledge, which helps her survive. And like at some point in time too, she even manages to catch fish, which, well, she has to eat it raw because she has no way to cook it, but it becomes almost like instinctual, like the will to survive up to a certain point. And when they do finally start to go looking for her, and she hears about this on her little radio that she hears, but she also starts seeing and talking to Tom Gordon as she's going along. She has dreams that kind of maybe point her in the right direction of what is happening and her chances of survival. And it's like this weird, instinctual, spiritual, connected to like almost becoming feral while she's out there. Like at one point she like hits this thing and gets stung in the face by a wasp, and like other wasps come out of this log and sting her, and then she knows, or maybe she didn't know, or she just figured out to put like mud all over her face to help like with the itching and the swelling and all of that, so that helps, and she's walking around like a weird mud creature. And then she remembers something like, oh, I think I remember that maybe I read somewhere once that if you follow a stream, eventually that'll lead you to civilization. Just the different terrain she has to traverse as she tries to survive and get out of this. Like, will she survive? Will they find her? Well, part of the problem too with them finding her is that she traveled so much further than any of these people ever could have imagined a 9-year-old would go or even make it. Then there was this other anonymous tip that's called in like, oh, hey, this guy probably kidnapped her and this, that, and the other. So then they're kind of like thrown off like, oh, maybe she was kidnapped and pulled off the trail, this, that, and the other. And as the days go by, the family starts to think about, okay, so they kind of think she's dead and don't think she's alive. But a lot of what kept her going was having her little Walkman radio, being able to listen to the Red Sox games at night, conversations with Tom Gordon when she would see him there. But then also she starts to realize she's being kind of like followed by something. Maybe this god of the lost in the woods. And she finds like big claw marks on trees, and then decapitated animal heads and different stuff. And it seems like it's watching her and waiting. And maybe it almost wants to wait until she's almost to freedom or almost to getting back to civilization before it takes her to make it that much, worse. It's such a intense little story packed into such a short novella. The ending ties it together so well. The ending was quite powerful with what happens. Had it not been for the ending, I would have been like, yeah, this is an alright book. But the ending elevated it to somewhere else. You come through this whole journey with Trisha, and you can't even believe like how far she gets, and like the ingenuity of what she does while she's out there, and just the will to survive. And then like there's this one part where she's like, man, this is it, she's sitting there and she finally finds enough food to be full again, and she's like, I'll probably never be able to tell my family this, but like this is what it's all about, just to eat and be full, to sit here, to exist. Cut away all the other crap and all the noise of what's going on in society and civilization, like the simplicity of certain things in life. And she's like, I'll never be able to explain that to anyone around me. And like, so some of that stuff just like hits you, and you're just like, dang, that's quite profound for this kid in the thought structure of it all. And it's a great book. I ended up really liking it. I like the whole sports element to it. I thought that brought another kind of cool level of how that just like pushed her and helped her to survive as well, on top of like her own inner strength to want to survive. If you like stories of survival and being lost in the wilderness, it kind of reminded me of like there was a book I read a million years ago called Hatchet. I feel like it was like some sort of award winner book that you read when you're a kid and you're in school, and it kind of like it was a story like that but different, but kind of in that vein. And yeah, I highly enjoyed it. So if that sounds good to you, definitely check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.